Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, back with the Tarot of the Cat People. So, it is the thinning of the veil time, right? And I recently did some videos about some shamanic weirdness that led me to an understanding that I'm going through some kind of initiation. So, I was thinking before that I would use the Tarot of the Cat People for some kind of ancestor spread, but I have as yet unprocessed set of ancestor readings from earlier in the summer. Well, it was in late summer, but it was not in, I don't think it was in the fall. I think it was in August. And so I feel like I need to, and there were 3 ancestors that came out of that, and I still haven't processed all the information from that and established particular relationships with those ancestors. I'm definitely guilty of doing too much moving on to the next thing, but at the same time, I'm not going to get on myself too much because I've also been going through some, having to get used to the fact that I'm not going to be able to work full-time anymore and having to let go of a dog and all of that kind of stuff. So, but, that stuff definitely got set aside and hasn't been gotten back to. But I thought that what I would do, I didn't feel moved to go to any of my ancestor spreads that I have, which are all pretty simple ones. They're all just kind of asking who is there and things like that. And I know there are 3 that are there because of that earlier reading. I know there are 3. So I'm just going to ask without defining any one of the 3. I'm going to look at this as how do my ancestors want to help me through this process of initiation that I'm going through? How do they want to help me through this process of initiation? And I think I'm just going to pull 3 cards and see if the Tarot of the Cat People works for this kind of a, request for information. Ace of Wands. Kind of creation and revitalization. It's interesting because this did show up in the later part of that initiation process, that set of cards, which was a prior video. I shared the whole set of cards that seemed to be talking about that process. But this was one that I didn't fully understand, so frankly, I do need help with that, fully understanding it. And it was kind of it was in the phase at which it's all right, I have come to an understanding about relationship with that Black Panther energy, but now what do I do? What do we do together? And this was in that, what do we do? What do I do? It was the second card in that phase. So it's kind of about accepting the power, maybe starting to use the power. I'm not sure. But I have an ancestor that wants to help me with that. So that's great because I don't understand it. So, all right. So another. Okay. To me, this would be managing the relationship between powers. because these are two people pretty much of equal power. They've got a sword laying between them. The kitty that they're sitting on, the kitty bench they're sitting on, looks angry. So it's kind of... These can also be seen as two people who have each other's back, actually. But I think it has more to do with mediation somehow. Mediation between powers. Neither being asked to be less than, but also seeing the need to cooperate or coordinate. So maybe there's an ancestor that will function sort of as a mediator. And last one. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? So now there's justice. So balance, mediation. So this is the Three of Swords, and the third sword is down there. But it doesn't, to me, this doesn't at all really have the same feeling as like a Rider-Waite-Smith Three of Swords. And so, lastly, we have justice. And if I recall correctly, I wasn't using this deck, but one of the ancestors had justice as a descriptor of some kind. I can't remember what level it was at in the spread at the moment. But yeah, kind of balance, objectivity. So, you know, the ancestors being kind of the spirit world, but not directly involved in my path, or, you know, not being a spirit animal or another spirit type of being. They're the ancestors. So, so standing a little bit outside of the drama. And helping me see what is a just way to behave, and to make sure that, you know, also, you know, justice is a defender as well. So just knowing knowing perhaps that they can kind of hold court for me should the need arise, and intervene. That they are there should I care to make an appeal like that, which is a weird thing to think about. But as I mentioned in part 2 of the Black attack, the initiation stuff, you know, it felt like a hazing. And it's like, well, is that fair? You know, if that's the initiation, that's like a hazing. Is that really fair? To not give me any particular notice, you know? When you have that, when human beings are initiating another human being, you generally know that you're going through an initiation. Even if you don't know the content of it, you know that you're going through an initiation, and that those involved presumably want you to succeed. But they are, you know, again, there are initiations in which the whole idea is to scare the living daylights out of you. And some of them are more spontaneous sorts of frights, and others of them are, again, like that ritual where, you know, you're given a reed to breathe through, but otherwise you're buried and you have to stay there all night. So, which I'm sure would be a horrible, you know, I just think of insects, you know, it would just be, and the weight of things, and, you know, it would be a scary thing to have to do for hours and hours on end. But again, you're essentially submitting to it. You're agreeing to go through the initiation. So I like this, and I had no, again, this card is a little difficult for me as the Ace of Wands just in general, because it seems to be a sort of conjuring of some kind. I think in the guidebook it says, and I don't have that guidebook handy, something about welcoming a newly formed fire cat out of the ethers of the earth, out of the fires of the earth or something like that. But it's just kind of weird. I'm not sure what to, just as a card in general, just the whole idea. So it has kind of a creative aspect, and I just don't know. I'm not sure what it means within the context that I'm thinking of in this reading, or the context of that initiation. Unless it might be learning to call on a given power animal, but I don't know. I'm not sure. It's one of those things I'm just going to have to let time sort it out. All right, so that's that. Again, I just wanted to attempt an ancestor reading, an ancestor communication, sort of a reading with the Tarot of the Cat People, and I think it did a fair job. I still am so shaky on the whole concept of direct ancestor helpers and direct ancestor communication, that not to mention this whole initiation thing, that it feels kind of sketchy, but I guess I won't fault the cat people for anything that I didn't understand, because of all of the non-understanding that's currently going on in me. And I would say, again, because this is my deck of the month, so I am sort of judging it each time I use it, I would say it worked fine for this type of reading. I wouldn't hesitate to return to it as a vehicle for communicating with ancestors. All right, everybody, take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.